on Kababayan LA. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. You are watching Southern California's first daily talk show for and about the Filipinos, where this afternoon we are going to get a performance from the Philippine Queen of Soul, Miss Jaya. Also, talking about pageants, we have a pageant story for you, courtesy of our intern, Jackie. You're going to see that later on in the show. Also, at the same time, introducing you to an up-and-coming YouTube artist all the way from the East Coast. But first, here's your American Dream Immigration Update.
This American Dream segment is brought to you by Aquino & Lowe Law Firm, answering your immigration questions.
Attorney Richard Lowe, secure communities and mandatory detentions, big words, and they both phrases sound scary. What do we have to be concerned about, or do we have anything to be concerned about?
Well, secure communities is basically a way for the government, it's been introduced as a way to try to get criminal aliens out of the United States. And the way it's been touted is that serious criminals who have committed violent crimes and such need to be removed from the United States. And
especially if they don't have permanent residency here,
right,
legal residency.
If they're deportable, or even if they're legal permanent residents, but they've committed crimes that make them removable, we want to get them out of the United States.
Okay.
So secure communities is supposed to interact with local police officers, give them the authority to question people about their immigration status, and then provide that information to Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Right. When you explain it that way, it doesn't look too threatening unless you're planning to commit a crime or unless you have committed a crime. But is this a cause of concern for our community?
There is a little bit of concern here. It's an awfully wide net that they're casting. And the way I think of it actually is like Finding Nemo. When Nemo runs into the sharks, and the sharks say, "Oh no, we're going to be fine. We're not eating people right now." And then Nemo gets a bloody nose, and all of a sudden the shark wants to eat him. Well, the shark is ice. Okay. And anybody who comes into contact with ice, they're going to want to eat him. And they're going to want to get rid of them if they're not here, no matter what their crimes are, even if they've not committed any crimes. In fact, I was just related a story about somebody who was having a traffic violation in North Carolina, and because they didn't pay the fine, they were picked up by the police, and then they were taken to immigration. Turns out this person was a citizen of the United States.
Oh, and then so what happened? They let him go.
Of course, they have no authority
to do
anything.
Otherwise, if that person happened to be not a citizen, then he would have been deportable, correct?
Right. So basically, we're securing our communities from traffic violators, from people who have done minor crimes. And the other problem is that sometimes you get people who have done minor crimes, and then they maybe have a way to become a permanent resident, but because they've been picked up by immigration, now they're forced to be stayed in mandatory detention. Okay. So you serve a 3-day sentence on a shoplifting crime, and then you get out, and now you're 3 months, 6 months in immigration detention until you straighten out your immigration situation.
But if you're a permanent legal resident here, or a citizen, do you still have something to worry about?
If you're a citizen, obviously not. I mean, you're not dealing with immigration. If you're a permanent resident, you do. There are certain crimes that you can commit as a permanent resident, which would make you a mandatory detainee. And now, easy enough would be drug crimes. That's the one we see a lot, which is somebody has possession of coke or possession of methamphetamines, even a low-level crime that would be dealt with in court, in criminal court as a low level. You would go through some deferred program, and then you would complete that and you would be fine. But for immigration purposes, you're going to be held as a mandatory detainee.
And as a mandatory detainee, you're in mandatory detention, so it's related. So secure communities, mandatory detentions. What are mandatory detentions?
So mandatory detentions is where the Immigration Customs Enforcement has to hold somebody. They don't have the authority, neither does a judge, to release them. Oh. So even if simple as 2 crimes of moral turpitude, which in this case would be like shoplifting offenses. So if you have 2 shoplifting offenses, you get picked up by immigration, they're going to hold you. They can't release you on bond. Even if you're married to a U.S. citizen and you're going through the adjustment of status process, and then you're going to be, now you have to be detained, and you have to do that process while you're detained.
And how long are you detained for? And does this result now into the issue of maybe crowding the detention centers?
Well, these are federal detention centers, although they do contract out to, for example, Santa Ana City Jail is an ICE detention facility, and they use that to hold ICE detainees. But you are held until your case is over.
And usually, how long do these cases go?
Well, normally these cases can be resolved. I mean, judges are working to try to get these cases out. You know, if you're a detainee, they don't want you to stay. And if there's a way for you to become a permanent resident, they want to resolve that. But if you have to complete a petition process and then have to have a hearing after that petition process, you're looking at maybe 3 months.
Okay, when does a lawyer come in? Okay, secure communities, mandatory detentions. Do you wait until you're detained to get a lawyer?
Well,
when should we call?
I think if you have ever had a problem with criminal law in your past.
And criminal law, what does that entail? DUI?
DUI, certainly. DUIs are a problem if you have multiple DUIs.
Oh, okay.
Then there's issues with that. Domestic violence can be a problem depending upon how serious the crime is, because it can be considered a crime of violence, which is an aggravated felony, which makes you deportable and mandatory detainee. So if you come into contact in a criminal sense with the system, then and you have a question about your own status, then you should talk to an immigration attorney in order to make sure that you know where you stand if something happens. And by the same token, if you have an issue that's related to criminal law, you need to hire a criminal attorney who's going to take care of that. Don't plead out and expect that everything's going to be fine. You need to talk to somebody who could talk to you about what your issues are, so that you make sure you get the best sentence possible.
Yeah, and make sure that somebody is out there defending your rights as well, correct?
That's absolutely right. You know, you can't always count on the public defender. They're overwrought a lot of times. They have a lot of clients. They can't always address all the details, the minute details in your particular case.
And that is a promise of Attorney Aquino and Attorney Lowe to us every Wednesday or so here on Kababayan LA with American Dream. They are here to tell us about our rights as immigrants. So that's the number to call on the screen. If you want to schedule your appointment, do it right now. Also for information, that's the website as well. Thank you so much, and more power to you.
Thank you.
Up next on Kababayan LA, some entertainment features for you, including a song from Philippines Queen of Soul, Jaya, along with Filipinos and Pageant Story. Don't go away.